This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Annex. Annex offers clinically effective supplements that promote longevity, performance, and everyday health. I'm so lucky to be working with Annex. I've been taking their products since January. What I loved the most was that their founder, David Block, well, he's local, so I've met him twice, but he said, here, try the product and let's not do anything until after you've tried it for 30 days. Give me your feedback, then we'll talk. And I really liked that approach, first of all, because I feel like there's a lot of shady brands out there in this space. And so I gave it a shot. I tried the Gut and Greens Superfood to replace my other greens brand that I'd been using. The taste is pretty darn good for a green, and I've noticed a difference in my energy. So the reasons you would take a green are 1, for micronutrients and antioxidants, 2, for gut health benefits, so like digestion, regularity, and then anti-aging benefits. So some of that is where the natural energy kicks in. And I've said this before that I feel like I don't crave coffee quite as much. So I still have coffee, but usually it's after my greens, and it's really had me feeling great. So I take a slew of other products in the Annex product line, but the Gut and Greens Superfood is one that's really low-hanging fruit for you, especially if you're already using a different brand. You can upgrade your greens and spend less than you're probably spending now as well. And you can use code ALLY15, ALLY 15 at checkout. That is ALLY15 at Previnex.com, Previnex.com. And Annex is also a sponsor of our upcoming event. Thank you so much to them for supporting this podcast. Welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones, a podcast that celebrates the everyday runner. I'm your host, Allie Bretnacher. And if you run, you are a runner. And every runner has a story, which is why I started this show. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been around for a while, you certainly noticed the new podcast music. This is my first time recording with it. I'll tell you a little bit more about how this new music came about. It actually is all thanks to my guest this week, Jake Hostetler. So in a moment, I'll introduce you to him. But I decided that I just needed something that felt more like me, less cheesy. Anyway, you'll hear us talk about that. But I am fresh off of an airplane, home from spring break. It is almost 11 p.m. I'm trying to get this episode out. That's what I get for not doing a lot of work on vacation, which I shouldn't, but it doesn't feel like work. So this is fine. I'm fine. For spring break, we went to Florida. We did Saturday through Thursday, and we went to Naples, Florida, primarily. So we flew into Punta Gorda because flights were cheaper. Saw my aunt who spends her winters in Venice Beach for lunch. And then we went to Bonita Springs, which is just north of Naples, where my parents are in the wintertime. And then Zach and I, my husband, we snuck away for a night to Key West, which is where we got engaged 12 years ago. And I booked us a room at the same exact place where we got engaged. And so we could kind of relive that. And it was awesome. We really needed the time away. I didn't really realize how long it had been since Zach and I did just a trip, just the two of us. So kind of embarrassed for how long that is actually. But it was great. We're home, happy to be home, ready for spring. And speaking of spring, that means running. I'm so pumped that we're into race season. The Carmel Marathon is in 9 days, or I guess 8 by the time you listen to this, on April 19th. And I will have a cheer zone at mile 20 for the marathon. I will also have a booth at the expo for my business athlete bouquets. So I am so excited next week to just get all ready for that. And I can't wait to see so many familiar faces, both at the expo and on the course. It's going to be a blast. And then we have the Indy Mini, which is on May 3rd. And the event that I'm co-hosting with Lindsay Hine, who is the host of the I'll Have Another podcast with Lindsay Hine, and also the founder of Sandy Boy Productions, which is the podcast network that I am so lucky to be a part of now. So we have an event that night, and it's the night before the race. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a live podcast. We're going to sell out. So make sure you get your ticket. $25, well worth it for just the stuff that's going to be in the goodie bag. And we're doing on-site giveaways. We just finished up our social media giveaway, which was a weekend getaway giveaway. And our lucky winner was Abby Prentice, who actually is local to Indianapolis. So she will have an amazing staycation thanks to the Bottle Works, thanks to our incredible event sponsors. Really excited for her. So congrats again, Abby. Oh, I will have you know that even though I went to Florida for spring break, even though I went to Key West, I am still 36 days alcohol free. So I am very proud of myself. It feels really good. I'm not going to lie. My body feels great. I get better sleep. I'm starting to wonder if I will really drink much at all anymore, which is just so weird to admit. Anyway, so Jake Hostetler, he made this music. He's very into music. Jake also opened the Clay Terrace location of our local running store, Athletic Annex, a couple years ago. So he does music on the side, and I'm so happy that I got to support somebody in our local running community in this podcast. And Jake is a runner. He has done a full marathon and ultra marathon, ultimately to get to know his clientele, which I think is really cool and inspiring. And then, obviously it's snowballed from there because now he's doing an ultra again this year and hopes to up his distance. And I really just loved finally getting a chance to sit down with Jake and get to know him a little bit better. And I know all of you will too. So please enjoy this episode with Jake Hostetler. Welcome, Jake Hostetler.
How's it going?
I got that right.
Yeah, killed
Excellent.
it.
I didn't add an extra like Hostetler or anything.
I hear everything. So
me too, Brett. I'm Brett Natcher. It's hard.
What is it, Brett Knocker?
Knocker.
Okay.
Which it's tough for Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for finally doing this with me. I feel like you've been on my list from the beginning, really, because I've known that you're in the running space and you're very plugged in with your work with Athletic Annex, and now you're an ultra marathoner and all the things. So I'm just really happy to finally get a chance to get to know you versus our quick conversations here and there at events. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is cool. Yeah.
And we were just chatting about how you went to high school at Carmel, and we are currently recording in the Carmel library. Mm-hmm. So not too far from where you used to run.
Yep.
Quite a bit.
Across the street.
How big was Carmel when you graduated?
The school itself had about 5,000 kids. In my graduating class, I believe, was around 1,200.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I'll never forget during graduation, I sat down next to two people I'd never seen before. And I was a pretty social person. I knew a lot of people, but I was just like, I literally have no idea who these people are.
You might not even go here. I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows?
That is kind of weird to think about.
It's wild.
Yeah, I went to Westfield High School and graduated in 2004, and we had 250 kids.
Yeah.
So that's a size where I feel like I knew everyone's face, probably, but not necessarily everybody's name. But it felt pretty small, obviously, compared to Carmel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have no idea what the class sizes are now, but probably even bigger than that.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's nuts. So you ran as a kid. When did you first start? Actually, let's just talk about what you already mentioned to me before this. Let's just talk about that. As a kid, your parents thought you'd never run, and doctors thought you would never run, correct?
Yeah, and physical activity in general would have been a struggle, yeah.
Which is crazy. I would have never, ever guessed that.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody would. So
yeah, exactly.
How old were you when your parents knew that you had issues with your walking?
So basically, I don't have the exact time frame. I think it was when I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
I was a toe walker, and basically my calves were so stiff and locked up that I could not flex my foot flat on the ground. So that made things really tough. I walked like that all the time and had to go through a long process of first getting Botox injections into my calves.
Which as a 5-year-old, it sounds so traumatic.
Oh my gosh, and they were huge needles.
I can't handle
holy
that.
crap.
I mean, the idea of doing that, where in your, just right in the middle of your calf?
Yeah. And I'll never forget because they had to hold the needle in there 10 seconds to get all of it in. And as a kid, that's brutal.
Oh.
And then I went through a series of casts that would just slowly kind of wrench my foot back into kind of a neutral position. And yeah, so
what is it, both feet though? So would you have to wear?
It was both sides, yeah.
And how many injections did you get over time? How often did you have to do that? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think that may have just been once or twice that I had to go through that.
God.
Luckily, but the casts were traumatizing in themselves because it's summer or spring and you're at school. I have 2 casts on my feet.
Yeah,
it's wild.
That is wild.
Yeah, I mean, I probably didn't care at that point. I was
too young to really know.
Yeah,
but still, that's hard on your parents too.
Sure.
And you have one sibling?
One sibling. Yep.
Brother?
Yep. Got a little brother named Carl.
Little brother. Okay,
yep.
So he's younger.
He's way taller than me though. He's 6'5". So.
And did he have any issues?
Nope.
No. Is it genetic, they think, or do you have any idea? No, you just walked on your toes and...
I have no clue. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's not terribly uncommon, but...
Right, I was telling you that I have a friend who her kid does it sometimes, not all the time, but a lot of times. And I remember her just trying to get them not to do it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you need to walk normally because you don't know what that's going to do. And clearly, if your calves are like that, that's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, there's no way to unflex them. And I've still had issues where I'll get massive cramps while I'm trying to sleep. Like that's
Calf cramps are probably the worst pain.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm saying this as somebody who's given birth. And calf cramps are a special kind of pain.
There's no way to compare that.
Right. For you, you're like, I'm not going to say anything about that.
No.
But it hurts, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow. Anybody who's not had a calf cramp is so lucky.
Yeah, and I've had calf cramps for like over 10 minutes long before.
No.
Where I'm just like, they're just like, oh my God.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that sucks.
No, it's all good.
You're like,
Yeah.
well, at least I can run.
Yeah, I can run and do a lot of things. So
What is your earliest
out.
memory of running?
yeah, so for me, running really started in 8th grade.
Okay.
At Creekside Middle School. At that point, I had done karate for a while.
Okay.
Probably around. I started when I was 6, so I'd done it. I did karate a little over 10 years.
You still do it?
No.
Okay.
I was at Adamson's Karate Studio, got my 2nd degree black belt. That's kind of where my athletics.
What does second
were
degree
focused.
mean?
Basically, there's different stages.
Okay.
Once you get a black belt, there's obviously a lot more to learn after that. So there's.
Is there? I have no idea, Jake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's.
Okay.
Yeah. There's
What's
a
the
ton.
highest level you can possibly be in karate?
I can't even tell you.
I probably have to Google that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious now. So a second degree black belt.
Yep. So I did that. I competed on the competition team. We competed all over the country, and it was kind of cool.
You competed all over the country for karate.
We did it through AAU.
That's cool.
So that was cool. But that's where it had started. And the transition into running, when I was in middle school, like a lot of people having issues just kind of fitting in socially, focusing, making terrible grades, struggled really bad with ADHD. And basically my mom kept driving by the school and seeing all the, kids out there running and having, good social
I can
interactions.
picture that because that's the campus that my kid goes to elementary school.
Oh, really?
And so I
Yeah.
see all the kids running
Yeah.
on that campus, and I can visualize what your mom saw and was like, Jake needs to be doing that.
Yeah, she's like, let's try it. Never thought of running. I hated it. I think in gym, I ran like an 8-minute mile or something, and that was me like going as hard as I could. Didn't like how it felt, but just really was able to create a good social atmosphere for myself there. Met some of my closest friends still to this day from running there.
Wow,
it's
that's
crazy because
cool.
my grades went from like I was making really bad grades to actually being able to be on honor roll and get my act together because that was a good release after school. Then I actually was able to focus when I got home to do my homework. And then from there, besides the social setting, having a goal to work for, it kind of it helped me have a release for my hyperactivity and helped me focus.
Yeah.
So,
And so did you do both track and cross country in 8th grade?
I did in 8th grade. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. In high school, I only did cross country.
Only cross. Okay.
Yep.
And is that typical at Carmel? Because for anybody who's not local, like Carmel, our school district is super competitive. As we just said, it's a humongous school.
Yep.
And so it's really competitive. So is it typical for an athlete just to do one of those sports?
No, actually, at Carmel, yes, but if you're a serious runner, you want to stack your seasons, obviously, especially with the sort of training that we were doing there is really important to consistently build your mileage and keep the same workouts consistent throughout the entire year. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, I couldn't do track, but it's because I was really involved in the music program.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in, jazz band, the top orchestra bands, all that stuff. So there was just a ton of time commitment there where I could not do both.
Right.
Going into the spring. So I would just train on my own, and my coach over at the high school, Coach Altvogt, he would help write out my training over the off season, which helped me come back where I was the season before.
Wow. So does music run in your family?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
My mom and dad both were music majors at Butler University.
Okay.
My mom is a super gifted clarinet player. She went to Michigan, the Northwestern, to pursue postgraduate degrees from there, and played some pro gigs. And then my dad.
What kind of pro gigs do you play when you play clarinet?
All sorts of things. With the symphony, there's operas and all sorts of things. And she played solo in front of her orchestra at Butler, and there's
really cool.
there's a lot of opportunity.
Can you play the clarinet?
No, no way. No, I'm a trumpet player.
Yeah. Okay.
And then my dad was a jazz guitar player. And then he actually started a music company called Piano Solutions that's right here in Carmel.
Oh, yeah. I totally can picture that. Is it still in that triangle building off of Carmel Drive? Yeah.
Yep, the old gymnastics studio there.
Yeah, and
off
I
Carmel
used
Drive.
to, embarrassingly enough, I took a dance class there, like a hip-hop dance class in high school at that building.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
played it off-the-wall sports, indoor soccer, right next
Oh,
to
yeah,
there.
yeah. I played there too.
Yeah, but I totally picture where Piano Solutions is. Okay, what a silly question. I guess that just goes to show how well I know you.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, music's deep in the family. My little brother was a really accomplished trombone player at Carmel too.
You guys really span the gamut in terms of
Yeah,
instruments here.
Yeah, I got a full band in there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but I play guitar as well. That's trumpet's what I ended up going to college for as a music major. But I've played guitar since I was probably like 10 or 11 years old, and that's been kind of my fun instrument.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I wish I could play an instrument. I wish I had. Well, I mean, I guess
can
I
always
could.
start,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, what a silly thing to say. I've encouraged my oldest daughter to do keyboard, so we've done some of that. But she then loses interest, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to make you do this, but I really wish that I knew how to read music. Yeah. Anyway, I digress.
Sure.
So your family is really musically inclined. So at what age did you start like learning to play instruments?
That's kind of hard because I mean we always had our hands on something musical since my brother and I since we were really young.
Probably since you could like hold things.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, in 6th grade during the summer band programs,
Okay.
I picked up trumpet and basically just went from there and ended up being something I was able to have some success with.
Yeah.
Which all instruments are so technically frustrating to get past the first couple of hurdles. But once you have some technical facility, then things start getting more fun.
Yeah.
And you can see the progress, just like running. You know,
Right.
you got to build a base and then just refine from there.
That was a pretty good pun too.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah.
It's all related. Yeah.
It is all related. What drew you to the trumpet?
I have no idea. I remember I went to the audition tryouts, and I really wanted to be a drummer. And I'm pretty decent at the drums, but I wanted that so bad. But the trumpet was just so natural. And I'm pretty sure my mom was there. And my mom was a band director and, obviously really experienced musician. So she was like, no, you're way more talented at this. And I think that kind of, I was just like, yeah, let's try this. And glad I went that direction.
Yeah. It's nice to have some expertise in the family to steer you in the right direction too. She's like, wait, this is where you're good.
Yeah, and you want to pursue what comes naturally to you.
Sure.
Because it's already really hard getting good at an instrument. You need something on your side as far as natural ability to make that work.
Yeah. I want to keep talking about music, but like chronologically, I want to hear a little bit more about your high school running days.
Sure.
Especially in such a competitive environment as Carmel.
Yeah.
So what were the events that you ran? Or for cross country, you just do the...
It's just 5K.
Yeah, it's just 5K. I always forget that. I never did cross country, clearly.
Yeah.
But okay, just the 5K. So what was that like?
It was crazy getting there, especially because I came in as an 8th grader, having never ran before. So I only had 1 year of running under my belt.
How did you get on the team?
Well, typically... I think at that point, if you were a freshman and you showed up to summer practices, you were pretty much on the team.
Okay.
There was some sort of time cut off, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Okay.
It may have been like a 22-minute 5K or something.
Yeah.
So like as long as you had good base cardio, that was pretty doable. But I was not a quick runner at all. I was towards the back of the pack through middle school. And coming into Carmel, obviously, the competition is insane. I mean, we had around 100 runners on the team, even with cuts the whole time I was there.
I wonder what the average size of like a cross country team would be.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell you in Indiana.
But not
100. Yeah, it'd probably be half of that or maybe even a little bit less.
Yeah.
But that was with cuts. I mean, there were more kids that would come out during the summer. But quickly, that first summer, it was tough to figure everything out because the mileage was a little higher than what I was used to, obviously. I went from the furthest I ran at that point was probably 3 miles to, I remember the first time I ran 6 miles in a practice. Like all the parents had left already and the coaches were looking for us because we took so long.
Oh.
And now that's like a no-brainer run. But
right.
It was really my sophomore year where I really started to see progress. And that was with Coach Altavote, who's the Carmel cross country coach. He was assistant coach at the time and started a new training program for us called PAVO, which basically you'd have 2 consistent workouts working on building your threshold. It was higher mileage than any of us were used to, but I just locked into that because I liked having a consistent day-to-day goal where it was the same every week, but I had a goal towards the end of the summer. And I remember my summer of my sophomore year, I just put everything into running that summer, hit my workouts so hard, got my mileage up over 45 miles a week for the first time. And the results were amazing from there. And obviously, I mean, it's very exhausting to run like that, but that helped me establish a work ethic that I've taken past high school and college.
Yeah, sure.
So,
where would you run, Monon?
Yeah, we did a lot of our running on the Monon. There's the upper and lower loops on Carmel's campus here, which one of those had a pretty severe hill called Agony Hill.
Oh,
is what
I've
it's
never
called.
heard of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just straight up. I mean, it's not very long, but we would crush that hill pretty hard.
Yeah.
Especially if we were doing intervals. But yeah, it was great having the Monon. We did a workout called a PPM, which was pretty much like a max effort tempo run. I can't even really call it a tempo run. It's a little harder effort than that for an extended period of time, and that would set your threshold for the season of how your workouts were built out. So that's what we'd be doing all through the summer, just running really, really hard miles on the Monon. And it was an absolute grind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
But we took it seriously. I mean, everyone on the team was super locked in. And that sophomore year and my junior year, we won state both years and made it to NXN.
NXN is national.
Yeah, that's the national championship.
Okay.
In my junior, I wasn't on the squad. I mean, I was a good runner, but I wasn't on the 7 that ran. But we got 5th my junior year. So
wow.
So yeah, we had a team that really bought in and just ran their asses off.
That's really fun.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, take us through the winning state experience for those years.
Sure. It's kind of weird for me to say it because I didn't actually run, but I ran with all these guys.
Right, it's your team.
I mean, I trained with that top group, especially my senior year, pretty consistently. And yeah, it's just a whole nother mindset. I mean, everyone is working as hard as they possibly can work. Everyone's eating healthy. We'd have double up days where we come meet at the high school beforehand at some of us had to meet at the high school at 5 or 6 a.m. And I know a lot of teams do that, but it was just cool to see that collective mentality of.
Yeah. Well, at such a young age, really. I mean,
Sure.
high school.
Well,
in high school, I was just getting into trouble.
Yeah, right. I still got in some trouble too, but I think the most interesting thing with Carmel in particular is just that feeling of if you slack off, get injured, whatever the case is, there's literally 10 or 15 people in your talent range that are ready for your spot.
Yeah.
Right there. So you have to. I felt when I was training just to get recognized or to not get surpassed.
Yeah.
I always felt that pressure, holding me to that standard where it's if I wake up and it's really cold and it's January and I'm not even running track, I still was out running a really hard tempo run in 1-degree weather or whatever the case was because I was like, these guys are out running track. Someone's going to pass me up if I don't do this. So we were all just grinding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after high school, you went to Ball State, music major.
Yep.
I don't know anything about the music programs in the state,
Sure.
but I'm assuming that Ball State has a good program if that's where you went.
Yeah, for sure. And there's different facets to each.
And because why not Butler, where your parents went, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I guess.
And I auditioned at Jacob School, NIU, and Butler, and Louisville, and Ball State. Those were all mine. I actually was a jazz trumpet player, so that was my kind of where my niche was at Carmel, where I really found some success and would go to summer camps. But yeah, that was one thing where I was like, okay, if I want scholarship money and want to go into music, this is what I need to look at. And a bunch of great jazz programs in Indiana, actually. But Ball State just kind of, it seemed like the right move because somewhere like IU, there's so many talented musicians there that you get buried. And I didn't want to get stuck with a grad student as my teacher for the first, however many years I was there, where if I went to Ball State, I could have direct access to really high-level professors. And I'm sure the same deal as Butler as well in these other schools. But that's where I was like, this school's big enough. The jazz department's really good here. I'm going to learn a ton, and I'll actually have individual attention here.
Yeah.
So majoring in music's scary. I mean, a lot of parents would kind of shy away from their kids doing that.
Sure.
But, I mean, my dad's had a lot of success in the music industry. My mom has had success in music, and it's more just being able to finish something and really refine a skill that you're passionate about. I think it's going to really enhance my adult life now.
Yeah.
Being able to, have some more ability with that.
Well, and to your point earlier, talking about the parallels of running and music, right? Like the consistency, the practice, the training, it's all kind of the same in a way. And so it sets you up for a lot of success in other areas. too. I mean, not just running and music. So
Sure.
when you were in college, what was your dream, or what still perhaps is your dream when it comes to music?
Sure. So going into college, my whole thing, and it's really hard because you don't have any perspective yet coming out of school.
Totally.
You have no clue what you're looking
Yeah.
for. But I was like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get insanely good at trumpet, and then I'm going to be a famous trumpet player. And I was like, yeah, that's going to happen, which is kind of an arrogant thing to think. But, at that point, I just thought, well, this is my greatest talent at this point. I need to just pursue this. I quickly realized when I got there, I have always had extreme performance anxiety where I basically would shake so bad I could barely even play my instrument at times, even though I was a talented musician.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I used to sing. In like church choir. And I remember when I would have a solo, I would have to like stand so that my knees wouldn't shake so hard that you could hear it.
Oh, yeah.
In my voice. Yeah. So I can relate to that.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's amplified so much more. We had these things at the end of the semester called juries where basically you had to play a selection of classical music in front of all of the professors, all the classical professors, which wasn't even my niche.
Yeah.
And they would just sit there stone cold faces grading you while you play and sight read through these. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't like this at all. And I remember having a talk with my jazz trumpet professor, Mark Buselli, who's the head of the jazz program there. He's a really notable player in Indy here. He was just like, why are you doing this to yourself? You clearly don't like performing in front of people. It's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In my brain, I was like, I just need to push through discomfort to make this work.
I can, figure this out.
And I remember having one phone call with him really late at night after I found out I hadn't passed through my jury. I had to pass through a jury to get my jazz performance degree on the classical side, and I just couldn't mentally get through it without shaking. And he's like, and at the time I was in music production major, which is called MMP there, until I could get into the performance side of things. And he's just like, you should just keep doing all of the jazz classes to learn, but finish out this music production or audio engineering major so that you have more applicable skills in the industry.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'll just do that. And that's what's turned into now my side business and kind of where my music career is going. So it all works out. You always have this vision of how it's going to be, and you got to know when to let go or pivot, and something great can come out of that too.
Yeah, that's good advice. And when you think about music, you think about somebody on a stage.
Yeah.
A lot, and performing. But when it comes to producing and being like on the audio side, you can get a room like we're in now and doing it all, and then you share it with people, but you never really have to perform.
Yeah, that's it.
So it seems pretty ideal based on what you described. The performance anxiety, I could go down a whole tangent of that. I still will take Benadryl before public speaking.
Oh, really?
Swear.
That doesn't make you too sleepy?
I will break out in hives. I can fight through it with the adrenaline in terms of the sleepiness.
Yeah.
But, it's just, I don't like it.
Yeah. No,
but
it's brutal.
It's like the nature of it. And more and more I find myself in situations where I'm speaking and I'm like, what the hell is this about? I don't know.
One, have you found that repetition has helped you?
It does. Like, I think the more you do something, the more comfortable you get. I don't think it'll ever be something I enjoy necessarily. I mean, maybe, but it's.
That's brutal. And it's funny, going back to that last story, when I made the switch to, in my head, realize, okay, I'm not going to be a professional performer. I still performed live all the time through my major and just gigging. And my performance anxiety vanished because I didn't have anything to prove to anyone anymore. And I could just enjoy the music at that point.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. And you realize most of it is just pressure you're putting on yourself.
Just like running.
It really is just
seriously,
like
if you're going for a PR and you're like pressuring yourself and like having to perform, you tend to fall apart more frequently than if you're just running for fun.
Yeah, and there's no way you're sleeping the night before.
Right,
either.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, if only it was so easy to like just tell yourself to shut it off.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
That's not how your brain works.
It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
If only. And so what did you do right after college?
Yeah, so right after college, So first off, I had been working in run specialty through college.
Which I did not know. Okay, so you've been in the run specialty industry for a while.
This next year will be a decade.
A decade.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm 27, so that's not even...
I know, right.
I'm
like, you're not that old.
So I came and worked it was Blue Mile at the time in Carmel. I kind of wanted to get into sales in general because I like talking to people. I have a ton of fun just engaging with people all the time.
So why not at the piano store then?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Or did you do that
exactly.
too?
I worked at the piano store or at my dad's
Yeah.
store through high school and a little bit of college.
Okay.
I got a great work ethic from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing, a lot of that was physical labor and making sure the store was presentable, which was great. Like I worked really hard there.
Yeah.
But with the sales for that, I would have needed probably some more experience too.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to go into the running industry just because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah,
It's one of my hobbies. And at that point, everything I was doing was music, including college. So I kind of needed something that was just different where I could kind of escape.
Burn out.
Yeah. It was a little much. So yeah, I went in, asked for a job, and I'm pretty sure I'm the first college kid they ever hired at that company. College employees are great. They know a ton about running. They have a bunch of energy. It's really easy to teach, and you can learn a ton. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I went from there, and I'd worked there through college, was a key holder or a sales manager there. And then when I left college, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do because we had just played with our top band in Ball State. We went to Costa Rica and toured around, played the National Theater, played at the Jazz Kitchen, just had a bunch of gigs back to back. I played in a couple studio sessions for money just to kind of see what a gigging life would look like.
And what does that mean, playing a studio for money?
So, for example, one of them, there's a jazz singer, and basically went and played a trumpet solo on one song of the album, and then I did one more studio session for another local musician. And those are crazy because you walk in and sometimes you have an idea what you're playing, but last second the singer could be like, oh, this is in the wrong key. I need it in this key. And then they count it off, and you have to make up a solo in another key. It takes a really high level of skill. And I was getting there, but I was like, I don't know if I want to have to rely on this for my income at this point.
Yeah.
Which is it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So after college, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to the run store while I find a job.
Right.
And I went over to be an assistant manager at it then was called Jackrabbit.
Yep.
And I went over to the Broad Ripple store, and that's where I met Luke.
Okay.
Yeah, I had never met Luke before, who's one of my closest friends. Him and I have worked at Athletic Annex for years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, him and I developed besides friendship, a really good working relationship where we were just on each other's ass all the time, trying to make each other better.
Yeah, that's the best.
And he really, he expected a lot out of me as far as setting up community events, working on sales metrics, recruiting staff, training staff. And I was like, you know what, maybe I need to stay in this industry. And then that Carmel store opened up. The store manager position opened up. I was like, yeah, I'll try this out. And oh my God, I learned so much in that position.
So you were a manager at Jackrabbit Carmel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So I was there I managed that store for about 3 years.
Okay.
Before moving over to Athletic Annex.
Okay. Yeah, because I worked it was the running company, Blue Mile, Jackrabbit, then Fleet Feet. Mm-hmm. And so I worked it was Jackrabbit when I started.
Jackrabbit, yeah.
Or no, they had been acquired, but the signage hadn't changed.
Yeah.
So I worked for Fleet Feet the whole time, but it was for a year. But anyway, that was the only experience I've had in run specialty was for a year.
Yeah, and that was my store for 7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And then what made you join Annex? I mean, they are locally owned.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's worked in a very corporate environment in run specialty, like you can totally see the difference now that I've had that experience.
Yeah, totally different. We did some really great things at Jackrabbit, and we had a good team and good community, but I was just ready for a change, and I really, really liked the energy from Athletic Annex.
Yeah.
Luke had been recruiting me for a while. The owners at that time, Bob, Gareth, Justin, I met all of them and was instantly like, okay, this is totally different energy. I've never met anyone who treats their employees like this and just lets people run with ideas. And it was just, I needed a change.
Yeah. I can't believe that was your store for 7 years back at Jackrabbit because from what I saw with like store managers, I mean, talk about a grind.
Oh, yeah.
And thankless.
Yep.
And so how... maybe just paint a picture for people who don't necessarily understand retail. Yeah. Like what your life was like then and maybe how it's different now.
Sure. And a lot of why it was that way then too, taking into account was we were going through COVID, which was very tough. In graduating out of college, taking over a store of a bunch of employees who were older than me who didn't necessarily, didn't really know me or trust me yet. So I gained their trust, got sales going, hired on staff, and then COVID hit. We had to furlough everyone. And we were in the back packing orders day after day after day. And to get our company off the ground so that we could hire back our staff that were, relied on that money, we needed to make a certain threshold of sales per day. So Luke and I in general we've never been people who can just sit around when it's slow. So what we did is we started just picking up phones and making sales over the phone. So that was a cool experience. Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, honestly, just would call I would just pull up reports of customers that we'd had in the past, and I good rapport, and had met a lot of customers over the last year and a half of that time, and I'd just call them, thank them for supporting the business, and I'd look at their account, see what shoes they had bought, and then be like, hey, it's probably time for some new shoes. If you want this, I'll personally drive this to your house. And Luke and I both did that. Luke actually biked the shoes around Broad Ripple, and we started making a daily sales average where we could start hiring our staff back. And we presented it to our district manager and our company, and kind of got a little, we just picked up phones and just made it happen.
Jake, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a grind.
That is a grind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's really amazing.
But the really big challenge after that was coming out of COVID. A lot of retail, restaurants, retail shops experienced, really tough staffing issues from people who either didn't want to come back to work, were afraid to come back to work for health reasons. I mean, all the reasons made sense with how much disruption was happening, but it left us in a place where we had stores where we just didn't have any staff. And we're talking like no store manager, nobody. And at this point, Luke had left over to Annex, and we just had to plug gaps. I remember driving down to Nashville, Tennessee, working a store by myself. My district manager was doing it too. And I would get people to come down and interview. I'd go up and knock on the apartment buildings on top, and I got a couple part-timers to come in for interviews. But yeah, just staffing's really tough because it's a super fun job to work and run specialty.
Yeah.
But I think that period of time for every company was really difficult.
Yeah.
And obviously, Jackrabbit got off the ground again with staffing and was able to make it work. And it's a big hustle, lots of 70-hour weeks over there.
Yeah.
But I learned a ton. I'm grateful for the experience. It was great helping the community, and we had a good team over there. But yeah, it's been a huge difference coming over here.
And how long have you been with Athletic Annex?
I've been with Athletic Annex for a little over 3 years.
Okay.
Now, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, nobody else knows.
Yeah.
Well, maybe some people know listening, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's flying by, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many locations does Annex have?
So we have three
Three
locations now, and we recently have added outside sales location or workplace fit. And Luke helped get this off the ground. We've gone out and done corporate fittings or gone to hospitals with a bunch of shoes.
That's smart.
Set up shelves and just helped fit all the employees there. Made it really convenient for them. Mm-hmm. So that's been a big focus of ours this last year.
And what's Luke's last name for people listening who might not know who he is?
Tormelon. Yep.
So that's really interesting. And for people who also don't know, like going into a hospital, be like, why the hell are you going into a hospital run specialty people? It's because like Hoka's and Brooks and a lot of brands have these shoes that are great for people who are on their feet all day too,
absolutely.
Not just for running.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can get pigeonholed into the sort of store you are when people come in and they're like, I'm not a runner. This is a running store.
Yeah.
It's like we are a running store, but like a huge portion of our customer base are people who just need supportive shoes for walking around work, rehabbing an injury, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And we want to be the store where you're going to come in and get a really detailed experience for people who know their stuff. Because we take that super seriously. There's so much to know on the footwear wall. The technologies using these shoes are ever-changing.
It's so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
As somebody who's tried.
Yeah, and you've been in the industry. You get it.
I've been in the industry. I feel like I know nothing still. Like I know I'm like a little bit more knowledgeable now. But it's hard because even going through training, then the next year everything changes again. Got the new models, new technology, whatever.
Yep.
And a lot of its baseline's pretty similar, but I still felt like it's a lot to know.
It's a ton to know. And where else are you going to come in and get an experience like that where people understand the footwear to that detail?
Right.
And that's where I think the services industry is even more important right now because of how successful online business is for everyone. You need to come in and have someone who cares and understands the product walk you through it. And that's something I think Run Specialty will keep really consistent going forward.
Yeah.
And will be what keeps the motor rolling.
Well, I always see on like in Facebook groups, people will be like, oh, like what kind of shoes should I get? Just asking people. And now having been in run specialty, I'm like, wow, yeah, you really can't just be like, hey, what shoes should I have?
Yeah, definitely not.
You can't do that. You have to go in and have somebody watch you walk, watch you run, look at your feet, understand what you're using these shoes for, what surfaces you run on, all the things. And I just had no idea. I remember just picking shoes because they were comfortable. But then I would be like, okay, what color do I want? Right? Like, and you get those people still that come in.
For sure. Well, and that's important too. You know,
you want pretty shoes, but it's like, no, you need the shoes that are right for your feet.
Yep. And that's going to be different for everyone, which is always hilarious when someone comes in and they're like, I want these 3 shoes because Google said these are the best 3 running shoes. And I'm like, this may be a shoe that doesn't fit your foot at all.
Right.
And something that's really helped us in the last couple years here, we got in the 3D scanners.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Oh, yeah. And those have helped a ton because with a 3-dimensional view, you can see the instep and the arch of your foot, which associates with shoes really closely. And all sorts of issues can be alleviated by us just putting you in the right category.
Yes.
Making sure your foot's not squeezed, you have good blood flow, which is super important in running. The amount of people that run who have numb feet just because they're in the wrong, they have the wrong fit in the shoe. It's like, if you come in, we'll make sure that that's not a problem. Yeah. We can take care of that and go down to detail with that now.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even a new shoe. It's just tie your laces different. I learned that in run specialty as well.
Yep.
There's certain tricks to like, hey, it's not just that. It's that you can skip this hole here and it alleviates the pressure that you had or whatever that might be.
That's exactly it. And that's what helps with our staff. And with like someone like you who's a runner that's worked in run specialty, it's like you're working with people who've been through the injuries, the setbacks, the discomfort, getting a wrong pair of shoes, getting sold into the wrong setup, and the frustration of it. And everyone just knows, like, you can skip all the BS and get right to the point because, it's people who understand what the industry and the running community, and walkers too. I mean, we have a ton of walkers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's back away from Athletic Annex because I know that's like who you work for, but obviously not who you are. Mm-hmm. But I do have to thank them for supporting this event that's happening before the Indy Mini too. You guys are sponsoring our event, which will be at the Bottle Works Hotel before. So you should come. Well, you're going to be at the booth probably.
Yeah. Yep.
I will have a booth for athlete bouquets at the Mini Expo. And I made sure that when I looked at the map, I'm like, okay, where's Athletic Annex? I want to make sure I am around there. Yep. So I am. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, it's good.
Anyway, well, I want to go back to you and your racing stories. So your first half was in 2019.
Yep.
And so how, obviously as a runner in high school, how did you get back into running?
Sure. Part of getting back into running was working at a running store. I just started managing that Jackrabbit.
Okay.
And when you're around all these people talking about running, like and you're getting free shoes from reps or whatever the case is, of course you're going to dabble in it. I took a 4-year break in college from running completely.
Okay.
I was just really burnt out from my training, and I just needed a break because it wasn't fun anymore at that point. And sometimes it's good to just put something down for a while and then kind of fall in love with it again. So I got really out of shape in college. I was in a fraternity, had a lot of fun.
Freshman 15, and then some. I've been there.
Yeah. I definitely was not good to my body for 4 years.
Yeah. No, what fraternity?
I was a Phi Delta.
Okay.
Yeah, great. I learned a bunch. It was a great fraternity and all that, but I had a ton of fun. And basically was in pretty poor shape as far as respiratory and just general cardiovascular fitness was not top tier, especially coming from where I was. I mean, I was a machine.
Right.
At the end of high school.
Yeah.
But I decided, I'm going to run the Monumental Half Marathon, and I wrote out my own training plan, didn't really know what I was doing. I knew enough about training where I could kind of scale my long runs, have the right sort of rest weeks to recover.
Okay. At least you knew that much.
Yeah, kind of.
I never knew about rest, really.
But I just basically forced myself back into shape, which was really tough because I was used to a mileage run for me in high school would be at like a 6:30 to 6:45 pace would be like my just my daily run. And then I was like struggling to run like a 7:15 or 7 flat. Yeah. But I just suffered through it. And somehow I think I ran like a 1:28:40 or something. Huge struggle.
Yeah.
But it got the ball rolling again with distance running. And I had a great time. Yeah. Freezing cold day. Brutal.
Yeah, I was trying to think.
2019 was so windy.
Yeah, I joined the board in 21, and so I had run the Monumental before, like a handful of times, the half, before I joined the board, but I had taken a break for a while. So I did not run in 2019. I know that.
Sure.
But yeah, what made you pick Monumental out of the local races?
I just ran them.
You're just like, this is coming up. I can train for this.
I think one of my friends wanted to run it, and I ran it with her, or I went to the race to run it, and it seemed like the one with the best attendance, and all my customers had been talking about it. So
I'm sure.
Like, and there was a point where it's like, I haven't even ran a half. If I'm selling people shoes that are running marathons, like I need to do this event so I can relate to them. And then that was the same deal with my marathon and then ultras. Like I don't want to talk to customers without being able to see eye to eye about certain things.
Right.
And it makes a huge difference helping people.
It does.
Obviously.
Like you've been there and
sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can totally see that. So you did the Monumental Half 2019 and then again in 21.
Yep.
And then when was your first full?
My first full was in 2023, I believe. Yeah, I ran the mill.
Yeah, you ran the mill race.
I ran the mill race, yeah.
I've never done that one. Where is that?
That one's in Columbus, Indiana.
Yeah, okay.
Not a huge race. I think there were like 300 people that did the marathon.
Wow,
Super small pool. The reason I ran that one, I was working with Rachel Cinders. She was my run coach for that training block and got me through without injury. It was great.
Yeah.
At Annex, obviously, we sponsored the big races. We're title sponsor of the Brooks or the Monumental. So that week is like blocked off for management, obviously, because we're grinding that week out. So I was like, I want a fall race that's kind of in the middle of everything. And it was a beautiful race. I will say I was by myself for probably like 40 to 50 minutes of the race.
And for you, that's a big chunk.
Yeah, well, and that was my first, that was my first marathon ever. Right. So I was just like, but luckily I done most of my training runs all by myself in my long runs. So
that surprises me, actually.
Yeah. I love running in a group. I like running with people, but I talk to so many people all day. My run is where I can just be all by myself.
Yeah.
So I like the long run solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last 5 miles of that race, so I was like, it'd be nice if there was a bigger crowd here for
anybody
sure.
Here to
but it was the course was great. It was ran really smooth, and it was.
You got a top 10 finish in your first marathon.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
What was your finish time?
I ran a 3:11 something.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, can't be mad with finishing it, and I wasn't going for anything crazy fast, but I was just happy to. I was just glad I finished it.
Yeah, that's so great.
And I was able to race a little bit at the end because there was a part where you kind of loop back around and you can count the people in front of you. I was like, and at the time I was like, oh shoot, I'm in 11th. Like I need to.
I can crack this.
Yeah, I was about to lay down. I was like, this sucks. I can't do this last 4 miles. And I was like, no, we're racing now. So I was able to lock in and pick some people off, which made the last mile go by
faster, which is always helpful.
No one can prepare you for until you do it the last 5-6 miles of a marathon. I'd always heard about it. That wall can make the most experienced runner want to just sit down and quit.
Right. It's like I go back and forth between like the wall is complete bullshit and it's also not. It's because you have to practice this like whole it's like such a mental block of but at some point, I mean, for me, last year at Monumental Full, it was like it was the last 4 miles, like mile 22. I just all of a sudden was like, oh my God. Yeah. I don't know if I can do this. And then you're like, no, shut up. Just suck it up. And just, it's always going to be tough.
Yeah, your body's crying out for help. And you have to, and it's in the marathon, it's crazy because it's not like every mile you're having to reset. It's like every couple steps. It's like, no, you can do this.
Right.
Keep going.
Yeah, it's like.
We're in a 5K. It's like you got, 3 more minutes of hell and then you're good.
Yeah.
But like, which 5Ks are the most painful race ever for me still.
I am terrified of them.
They're so painful.
Yeah.
If you're running all out.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, at the end of the marathon, it's crazy how much you have to just coach yourself to just get your ass across the line.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so, have you done another full marathon?
That's it.
Okay, so then you're like, okay, I'm going to get to know my customers. I'm going to run a half marathon. Then I'm going to run a full marathon.
Yep.
And then I'm going to run an ultra marathon.
Yeah, that was random.
So you're just like, I'm just going to progress into this and do it all.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by Bitch Sticks. Bitch Sticks is sold in over 5,000 stores nationwide, but was founded in Indiana, Zionsville, Indiana, to be exact. And Bitch Sticks is a self-care brand that cares about people, communities, and the world. You're probably asking, why bitch? On her journey to the Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg became known among some of her male colleagues as bitch. And when she found out, she responded, "Better a bitch than a mouse." I love that. And so their mission is a call to action to transform a bad word into a force for good. And each year, Bitch Stick donates thousands of dollars to nonprofits that support survivors of domestic abuse and sexual assault. They work with their retailers locally in communities around the country to find organizations that need the most help. So when you support them, you're also supporting an incredible mission and cause, and you get great products. So be like me and go buy yourself the Athlete Good Luck gift set. I couldn't help myself. I just had to have products that I have not tried yet. So I've used their Quit Your Bitchin' Muscle Rub. That's included. It's amazing. They also include a Big Bitch Sticks Face SPF stick, anti-chafe stick. I've never used that. It's called Son of a Bitch. So I'm going to try that as well. And then, of course, a couple of lip balms that have SPF 30 in them. Seriously, how can you have enough lip balm? I have it everywhere and my kids steal it. So I need as much as I can get. Use code Allie, ALLY, B as in boy, at checkout, and you'll get 20% off of your order. Thank you, Bitch Sticks, for supporting this podcast and our upcoming event, which you will hear about momentarily. Okay, so then you're like, okay, I'm going to get to know my customers. I'm going to run a half marathon. Then I'm going to run a full marathon. And then I'm going to run an ultra marathon.
Yeah, that was random.
So you're just like, I'm just going to like progress into this and do it all. So you did Prairie on Fire last year.
I did.
Which is so cool. I can't believe it sold out. Well, I can, but I was like, dang.
Coolest race ever.
It's a backyard ultra. So tell people what a backyard ultra is.
So basically, first off, it's TJ Daly's race with
Mishinga Misha.
Mishinga Misha. There we go. Track club. That's good because I messed it up at some events. Every time. But yeah, shout out TJ Daly. He pushed on me to join the race, and it was just kind of one random day at the beginning of the summer, and he's like, "Dude, just sign up. Like, what are you doing? Sign up." Because I was like, I don't really know what I want to race next, and I signed up that day, and I was like, all right, and I just had a number in my head. I was just like, I'm going to go for 12 loops. And sorry, back to what you were saying. The Backyard Ultra, it's basically a format where you have a 4.2 mile loop, and you need to run it every hour, and then you need to be back on the start line by the start of the next hour to continue. So it's a last man standing race. Yeah, man or woman.
Right.
Standing race. Because I feel like this year is going to be. Yeah, we have some women that are going to blow open the field here, so it's going to be exciting. But anyway, last person standing race, and there's a lot of strategy to it because if you run the loop too fast, you have more downtime, which sounds good, but then it's harder to get back up, and your legs will start recovering or getting tight. But if you run it really slow or if you jog it, and you miss the cut, you're out. So you really have to figure out a mental strategy of how to keep making it to the start line, making it around with how bad your joints are hurting.
Did you practice for that? Did you train because I know Rachel did. When she did it, she would go out and do a 4.2 mile loop and kind of plan for that. So
Rachel trained way more seriously, and a lot of people did. I was working a ton of hours that summer. We were just really busy, which is great. So I never ran over 10 miles leading up to that race for the full calendar year. Going into that race, which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
That's kind of boneheaded. But my coach, he knew my schedule. He worked for Annex too, Keegan, and he had me run 4.2 miles 3 times in a day, where in the morning I'd run it, in the afternoon I'd run it, and in the evening I'd run it. So I would triple. So instead of doubling for mileage once a week, I would triple once a week and then maybe double a second time in the week. Just to get in my head, we're running now. We're running again. And it was actually even better spaced out because I wasn't dedicating the day to it. It was more throughout my day every week. Where I was just like, oh, shit, now I got to go out and run 4.2 miles again in the midst of me doing everything. And I think I got my head in the kind of cadence of just get back on the line, go. I know it sucks. And then I realized, like, okay, after about, 4 or 5 minutes of running, I'm back in the zone. It's going to be okay. Because during an ultramarathon, you got to constantly reset your brain and understand, like, I may feel like I'm about to die right now, but in 20 minutes, if I just keep my head up, I may catch a second wind and be fine for, 15 more miles. It's
crazy.
So it's just a constant, like, you just got to trust that you have, that there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
A couple quotes to share from previous guests of this podcast. One would be, of course, TJ Daly. And he said, don't quit in the chair. Like, no matter what, just get your ass up, get to the starting line. Start moving, then you can quit. But don't just sit on your ass and give up.
Yep.
And then the other one is it never always gets worse, which is Shea Aquilano shared that on the podcast.
That's
and
nice.
It's, at first I was like, excuse me, come again? Like, I don't understand. But it made sense. It's not going to keep getting worse. At some point, it's going to get better. So if you can just suffer a little longer, you might get that second win, to your point. So I think about both of those things a lot. It's good advice, especially when it comes to ultras. I have not run an ultra, at least not yet, but I would like to, I think now. At first, like when I started this podcast, I was like, I'm never going to do that. That's insane. And now I'm kind of like, ooh, I want to do that.
You totally should.
Yeah, well, what if, because like somebody told you, hey, you're going to go run 50 miles. What would you, you're like.
Yeah. Well, and I did that to myself. I was like, 50 sounds cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit, that's a lot of miles. Like,
yeah.
But the best part of the ultra is the terrible anxiety that I feel before a marathon, 5K, whatever the case is. You just show up at an ultra, everyone's just hanging out. No one has stressful energy. Everyone's there for the day, and they're there for an experience.
Yeah.
And you really can feel that at the beginning of the race, which was just different than anything I'd ever experienced. I wasn't nervous at all. I was excited, smiling. It was just an amazing vibe the whole time. Yeah, everyone thinks that ultra runners are crazy. It actually is such a good metaphor for the challenges you go through in your life because of that sort of thing where it's like you got to keep going back to the start line and trying again, and things actually do get better even when you think you can't move anymore.
Yeah.
So like physically, it's your physical body will kind of show you the metaphor of it, because I can get past this, and I can keep going. And then all of a sudden you're at 50 miles. It's like, I just ran 50 miles. That's insane.
Well,
like I never would have thought I could do that, especially as a kid who didn't think he could run.
At all.
But you end up there and you're like, this is just consistency and not stopping.
Right.
Just keeping in motion.
Yeah.
It's good.
Have you recruited your family to run?
No. Nope.
I'm thinking like, what does your mom think about this?
Yeah.
She's like, you're nuts.
No, they're, as I said, they're on the music side. They all lead healthy lifestyles. But yeah, the running thing is just me. And my cousin's the head coach at Ben Davis.
Oh, cool.
For cross country. My aunt coaches there too. So there's running in my family, but yeah, I'm kind of the lone
in your
runner here.
Immediate family.
Yeah.
So for Prairie on Fire, what did you do when you sat down in the chair? Like when you're finished with the loop, bring us to the experience of what you would do between. What is it called? What are they called?
Yards.
Between yards.
Yep. So I ran all of my legs a little faster. I don't know why, it just felt better to get it done a little quicker. Yeah. So I had a lot of time. I didn't really sit down that much. I tried to kind of keep my legs moving a bit. I'd roll out my legs. I ate a ton of Chick-fil-A, so much Chick-fil-A.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Because, you just eat anything in front
I
of you.
always love talking about the food at ultras because I think that's what'll get me.
Sure.
To do it.
Yeah. No, it's good. And you just got to stay ahead of your calories. Right. You don't want to be catching up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the most interesting thing, and this is where experience in running comes in and understanding your body. And the problems really started after the marathon, where I started to feel like, oh my gosh, my Achilles tendon feels like it's going to tear. Or like I'm getting severe IT band pain. It's getting worse every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk to the start line again. But out of my experience with Athletic Annex, working with PTs, whatever the case is, I know the sort of things I need to do. So sometimes it would be, I'd be doing, mobility things for my ankle, or be stretching out my hips, or be doing glute exercises just to make sure I'm like, I know this is happening because my glutes aren't firing evenly right now, or my calf is working too hard right now. And even the runners there will help you a ton. Like my quads were getting incredibly tired. That's what I'm thinking. My hamstrings were getting tired.
Yeah.
And running up that last hill was really painful. And I saw some runners running backwards up the hill. And I was like, why are you running backwards? They're like, you need to use different muscle groups. You have unused muscles. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that.
That's wild.
So that saved my butt on a bunch of stuff, because then you're engaging different muscles, letting that muscle rest.
I would fall on my ass trying to run backwards up a hill.
Oh yeah, I'm sure someone did, but we just all started doing that, and it worked.
Yeah,
and we had such a good group. So many people went over 100 miles.
It's wild.
I think everyone was just trying to help each other. And you go and talk to someone, be like, I'm having a lot of pain here. They're like, here, try this. I have icy hot back at the place. I think I drank a couple high noons in there. here and there towards the end, just to be like, I just need to get my mind off of this and get my legs to feel better. Stop worrying so much, because then the more relaxed I ran, the better. Yeah. The better I did.
Right.
I don't condone drinking on it. But,
but
in the moment, you just kind of do what you.
Well, and a high noon is not like you're doing shots of tequila.
I'm not going.
I've done
full octane.
I was gonna say, have I done? I think I've done a fireball shot for sure during a half marathon. And at what was it? I think it was Carmel. Was it Carmel? They had the Fishers Running Club was out there. Maybe it was Sam Costa. I don't know, but they were like little margaritas, and I did that once. Yeah. And it like, in a way, like kind of just gives you a little bit of relief. And,
sure. Yeah. Definitely not for everyone. But in the like, it's an experience you're going through. You kind of you just got to try things and see what works.
Exactly. And what does not.
Yeah.
So like,
what doesn't work.
There's been moments where I'm like, oh, that was a really bad idea.
Yeah, that was a dumb idea, but you learn and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a film made. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so they made a documentary called Chasing 100. John Kuhn, TJ kind of co-made the film, and John shot all the film and pieced it together. But it basically was just to kind of cover the athletes going for 100 miles and passing it. I was one of the people that they featured in the film, which was just kind of random. I mean, I wasn't going for 100. Yeah. But, it was cool to see that. And I think that's a great marketing tool, to be able to physically see what you're getting into.
Yes.
And just to be able to see, these are all just normal people. Like, I can do this. And you don't know you can do it until you just sign up for one and go try it out.
Right.
So I think that helped fill up that race quick. In the Katiwi Park where it's at, it's beautiful.
Oh,
it's like perfect for that event.
It looks absolutely incredible. And so if you have not watched the film, go watch it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, almost at 100,000 views.
Jeez.
It's popped off.
Yeah. And John is on my list to interview on this podcast. He has not been on here yet. I have not met him in person. I did run by him one time.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Like, just we were out on in Westfield of all places, and I've seen him. And he's just so talented.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, and I'm so glad that TJ and him can work together, because I really think the ultra marathons are such a hidden. This is just people who go out in the forest and
it's
no one knows.
People can't really understand. I think these have helped.
Yeah, this has totally opened it up to the public, where it's no, anyone can do this. Yeah, I never would have thought I would run an ultra marathon. Now it's like, okay, I want to double my distance next year. You know what I mean? And I think I can do it.
Right.
So
I know you can do it. So, and Kaylin, TJ's daughter, who is just crushing it.
Insane.
I'm like, holy cow. I remember at the event at Annex that Christy D helped put on for safety.
Yep.
I brought my girls there, and I remember introducing my daughter Sydney to Kaylin and being like, Kaylin ran 30-some miles in a day. Or and Sydney was just kind of like, what?
Yep.
Yeah. So... yeah. Okay. So now, congratulations on becoming an ultramarathoner.
Yeah.
It's
thanks.
so freaking cool.
It's weird to hear that.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy being immersed in running, because I feel like it's harder to accept some of those compliments, because in the running world, there's always somebody crazier. There's always somebody faster. But in the normal, everyday world, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's so insane.
And that's how everything is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And until you do it, it's just some unattainable or really cool
scary
thing. And then once you do it, you're like, what's next?
You're like, wow, okay. So I'm going to go for it. So to that end, what do you have on the race calendar for this year?
Yeah, so I just started. I lifted through the winter, just started putting together a training block. I'm just going to get into kind of general fitness, hopefully trying to run a fast half towards the fall, and then Prairie on Fire again.
Yeah.
I'd love to go at least 100K. But also, setting a distance is stupid. I need to just go in and go as long as I can.
Right. That's the weird thing about that. I want to limit
myself with that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the mental game there, when you run a half or you run a marathon, it's like when the finish is.
Yeah.
But the idea that you walk into it not necessarily knowing what you're capable of that day is pretty cool.
And if you're having a terrible day, you can just stop. That takes so much pressure off it, and that actually makes you go further. Which is funny. I need to use that mentality everywhere, and I think a lot of runners should do that. Show up to the line. Don't put pressure on yourself. Just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think everyone would run so much better and just have better performances.
Yeah.
If that's the case. But it's so much easier said than done. But an ultramarathon like that will show you in your head, okay, this is proven.
Yeah.
I let go expectations, and I did something I didn't think my body could do.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be the case for anything.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good luck. I'll be cheering you on.
Thanks.
I'm going to come spectate probably at Prairie on
it's
Fire
going to be a fun year. Yeah.
I mean, just watching that film and like bringing it to light, you're like, this is such a cool environment. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about music.
Cool.
I want to talk about music. I want to nerd out with you because I know
on time?
we have enough time.
Okay, good.
We do. So obviously we now know how you got into music and how you got into like the producing side, but you're doing some really cool stuff. Like you're an artist on Spotify. You've got music up there. Like that's so freaking cool. I don't think I know anybody else who has music on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's scary putting out music. It really is.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was like listening to some of your stuff and I'm like, man, I can get down to some of this. I need to be playing this while I'm working in my office.
Nice.
You know? Like it's really great. And so I guess I don't know really where to start, but like, can you talk to people about what you're doing now with music?
Sure.
And maybe I should pull up what you made for me and we should listen to it together and then you can talk to me about how your brain works when it comes to creating.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so right now in the past year or so, obviously it's tough because with Athletic Annex right now, I just opened a new store 2 years ago in Carmel.
Yeah.
And that takes a ton of time. Getting a store off the ground, you just got to put a lot of hours into it.
Yeah. It's in Clay Terrace. It's amazing if you haven't been.
Yeah, right in between Warby
Yeah.
Parker, GameStop.
Yeah.
We have a blast there.
Yeah.
But building that up takes a lot of time. So any of my remaining energy or time's been put into some projects. It's funny, actually, Luke's wife, Akili, her artist name's Akili Nee Mali. And I met her at Ball State in the jazz program.
Wait, before Luke?
Yeah, I introduced him. Well, kind of. Like
Okay.
She met him through
you.
Through me, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, because I noticed that she was married to Luke, and then I was like, wait a minute. What's happening here? I need this story.
Yeah, connecting the dots here.
Yeah.
But yeah, she and I started making, we went on that Costa Rica kind of tour with Ball State's band, and we started making music together afterwards where I would play all the instruments and produce the instrumentals. And she's a great songwriter, writes an amazing vocalist. I mean, really, really high-level vocalist. But she would write songs to beats I made, or I'd make a beat based off of her songs, and we put out an EP, or she put out an EP, and I did all the mixing, mastering.
What does EP mean?
Extended play. So in EP, like a full-length album may be like 8 to 10 songs, and EP will be like 5 to 6 songs.
Got it.
And I produce a lot of the music on there, and that's actually having a lot of success right now. I think her top track on there is at like 160,000 streams.
That's cool.
And she's having a lot of personal success through, she's a really talented actress too. But basically working on that right now, we're working on some more music now. And then I've done all sorts of stuff. I made music for little Instagram ads, like little 15-second clips. Yeah. I made music for audiobooks. I've ghost produced beats for house and EDM producers.
That's cool.
It's cool, except if one blows up, I have no rights to it. And that's my fault. I know what to I know how to kind of negotiate with that now.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, I've trying to think. And then podcast intros too.
Yeah.
That's something I've done for, a couple people now. And that's just kind of fun because that with my job, I have enough time to do that where I can make, a 30-second snippet versus making a whole album or a piece. That's the way where I still can be creative, make some money on the side and it's fun.
Yeah. What software do you use to produce?
I use Logic Pro X, which is basically GarageBand Pro.
Okay.
So yes, it's Apple's version.
Got it.
It's called a DAW or digital audio workstation.
Okay.
And it's probably one of the most difficult ones to use as far as just the interface, but you can do a ton with it.
Yeah.
So that's been a whole journey in itself, learning that.
I can only imagine. As you and I were talking about before this, I was like, so yeah, these are the settings that I use because I Googled it and was like, what settings do I need for GarageBand?
Yeah, it's funny. I learned a ton from my degree. The rest I learned from YouTube.
Really?
I just grind on YouTube videos.
The amount of YouTube I've watched since starting Athlete Bouquets is astounding.
Yeah.
Because I've learned
It's so helpful.
Yeah, it is very helpful.
You got to know the language and vocabulary of whatever you're doing.
1,000%.
And then because if not, you'll get buried in all the videos. But then you specifically can go and learn from there. So.
Yeah. My least favorite thing, my gripe with it, is that you'll start watching something you think is helpful, and then it turns into like it's a commercial for a specific software.
Yeah.
And you're like, God damn it.
It's like all you need is this $1,000
and I'm like,
plug-in.
no, I just needed you to tell me how to do it. How did I get suckered into this?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's clever.
So, okay. So maybe just talk about your process of making music. So you said, like with Akili, sometimes she has a song that she has in her head, and then you produce music alongside of it. But sometimes you have a beat already, and then she can put lyrics to that.
Yeah. And
how does that work?
That's
so
actually
interesting.
That's pretty common in kind of the producer space. I think what kind of makes me unique is usually producers will put out a bunch of beats and artists will buy them, write songs to it. But I can kind of reverse engineer it a little bit, and I've done that with several artists. But Akili will write a song that she's written on piano or guitar, or maybe I have like a kind of basic beat, or she'll make a beat to base it off of, and then I'll build out the entire soundtrack behind it. And then she'll re-record vocals to that and mix it all in.
It's so crazy.
So, I mean, there's so many ways to go around it, about it. You just got to be really creative.
Yeah. Like, how do you agree that a song is done? That's got to be the hardest thing.
So hard. I mean, you just have to, you got to set deadlines for yourself, honestly. Yeah. And that's what'll help and she does a great job of this. There's other artists I've worked with who will want a lot more revisions, but like, we both will get to a place where like, this thing's ready. Can it be mixed more? Can we add more? Sure. But like
always.
Then it's just going to sit. We need this, she needs to put this out to get energy and, have listeners hear it. And it's, it's good. And plus you progress as an artist. So you got to just be honest with where you're at the time. And it's crazy listening to like even the first things we put out to now, it's like the quality's, the change in quality is awesome. And then, I'll listen to a music I made for an ad when I was right out of college compared to now. And I was like, oh my God, why did someone buy that? But you just keep getting better. It just like running or anything. You just keep consistently work at it and you'll see a lot of progress.
What's the marketplace for like selling your music?
Very difficult.
I was like, where do you even do that?
Yeah, that's where you got to get creative. I mean, a lot of mine is just connections. I went to music school. So I have some, I have connections through music school, but also for me, it's like I meet people at Athletic Annex. I meet customers of my dad's, or I'll be at, out at an event or at a bar and talk to someone and they're like, oh yeah, I need audio cleaned up for this, for this conference we just did. And there's this whistling noise. I'm like, I can take care of that. Or if someone does, you're like, I heard that you make podcast intro music.
Yeah,
and
from
I was
Allison.
like, I can
Thank
do that.
you, Allison.
Yeah. Thanks, Allison, for the plug. But things like that, you just get reached out to. And I used to use Upwork a lot too.
That's what I was thinking of places like that because I was trying to think of where I bought the music that I have right now.
Yeah.
Or who told me about it. I don't remember.
Or there will be like leasing sites where there will be instrumentals that you can lease for exclusive rights.
Yeah. Like that's what I did, I think.
That's probably what you did.
And I just don't remember which one. But I was like, okay, well, I'll just go on here and like listen to a bunch of them, see what sounds good. And then, I just am trying to find, as I told you, I'm like, I just want something that sounds more like me.
Yep.
I don't know if this makes sense, but what I'm trying to be, I'm like, I don't want to be this cheesy motivational speaker. That's not at all who I am. And so I feel like the intro of my podcast is kind of like that.
Sure.
And so I'm like, I got to mix this up.
That's it. Well, and that's where I think something like that's important because I can listen to what you want and then kind of tailor it to there, and then you can make revisions. Yeah. And then you want something that matches your vibe and energy. And,
okay, I'm gonna pull out the one.
Oh boy,
you I know.
This is a very rough one.
Well, I just think it would be. I think it's so fun. Well, you're like, tell me what to change. Here's my problem. I don't know how to even tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, oh, it sounds great.
And when I make something like this, I'm always thinking of someone talking over it. So I try to make something a little bit like kind of sunnier, kind of like a pop rock vibe, but that I could hear someone's voice being like, welcome to this, under it.
I got it.
But very rough demo.
So cool. Welcome to Finish Lines of Milestones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I can hear the Tegan and Sarah.
Yeah. Mixed with kind of a little bit of YouTube chords in there. Yeah.
Like, how do you even, like the little sounds in the back, like, how do you even know how to put all that together?
I usually start with the guitar.
Okay.
To be honest, I write on really quickly on a guitar just to get kind of a bass chord progression, and then I have a lot of sound plugins where I've created my own sounds already.
Your own sounds.
Oh yeah. It's basically like any EDM producer. It's sound synthesis is what it's called. Where basically
I don't even know anything.
I won't even go. I won't go down that rabbit hole. But you learn how to kind of modulate certain sounds or synths to sound exactly how you want. So I have this huge library of sounds I've created, or I'll just I'll kind of get a melody in my head and then I'll just run through. I mean, you would not even believe, even trying to find the right drum sound. I'm sure there's a lot of memes on the internet about this, but of just going down the list, trying to find that exact snare sound or whatever. But I try to find something that sounds good, but a little different from everything else to make it unique, and then and then go with it. And if I send it to someone and they're like, oh, I don't like that sound, that's fine. I'm not offended.
Right.
It's for the person who I'm working with. So.
Well, then I could see how, like, back to that, I could be like, okay, I like where we're going with this. Let me record an intro like I would, and then have you hear the cadence and speed of my voice. Because I think that makes a difference. With the one I have now, it's kind of funny. I'm like trying to make it sound good. It's such an art that I never would have thought that I'd be trying to master.
Sure.
Or not master,
but all that's
make it sound
important,
good.
because if you think about it, the intro music is that's where that moment is when you lose or keep people.
Right.
And then if they like your podcast, they'll associate that music.
Right.
Which is cool, because there's a lot of famous podcasts where it's like, I hear that intro music, I'm like, oh, I'm about to hear some crazy stuff on this
100%.
podcast. Like, it associates with your brain.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and my friend Lindsay Hine has had her music, I think, the same for almost 600 episodes she's had, which is amazing. And then I'm like, wow, am I too much of a perfectionist? But I don't, you know what? Nobody cares if I change it, because I don't think anybody's married to anything. So I'm like, I want it to be the best I can have it be.
100%. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, that's fun.
And not only that, help and support somebody in the local running community is the best.
I appreciate
it's
it.
So cool. Because
That's
then
cool.
it's like, look at us making this in the Carmel Library, and then
that's exactly it.
Your music. It's just so fun.
And that's what's fun about I feel like the running community in general. People just really try to support each other in whatever they're doing. And you even see it with your business and Rachel or Chrissy D coaching or whoever it is. It's like everything's integrated.
It's so amazing. And I don't know, I'm sure you feel it, but the energy of launching into spring race season is just
it's awesome.
The best.
Yeah, it's awesome seeing people on the Monon starting to train, and they're like, I'm finally out here again.
Right.
This is why I was feeling sad all winter.
Exactly.
Everything's going to be good.
It's now we're outside.
Yeah.
Well, let's do the end of the podcast questions.
Sure.
I can't believe we're here.
Yeah.
It's like, boom, it happened so fast.
Yeah, that's quick.
Yeah. So I guess a good segue, because we're just talked about music, but what is your favorite running song and or mantra?
Sure. It's funny. I'm probably the polar opposite of most people with running music. I listen to incredibly relaxing ambient music when I run.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there's an artist called Tycho. I don't know if you've heard him before, but a lot of people would use that as study music, and I studied all through college to him. But I'll listen to either that. I've listened to classical before, but mainly just really slow, chill music, because it helps me zone out and get my heart rate down and get my breathing just really smooth. I can't listen to, I love listening
EDM.
to when I do, but if I'm at the end of the race, I'll listen to Schoolboy Q or Linkin Park or something to get me going. But you can't do that a whole marathon, or you're gonna go too hard. Or
that's funny, because that's pretty much, it's like, okay, let me put all my amp up songs in one playlist.
No, when I start running, it sounds corny to get into a flow state, but I really I want my mind to just wander. And then it's I'm 15 miles in, sweet,
right.
That's done. So.
No, it sounds smart is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Random quick question. What is lo-fi? What does that mean?
Yeah. So lo-fi is basically, it's kind of based off EQ. I don't know if you've heard of EQ before.
I don't know what that means either.
Oh man, this is hard to explain. Basically, you're rolling off all the high end of an audio signal, or for example, if you hear a lo-fi beat, it's more muted. So you're taking all the higher frequencies up here, you're rolling it off, and it'll make it sound kind of like cozy, if that makes sense. And then some people will add some audio crackle to make it sound like it's coming out of a vinyl player or something like that.
Okay.
That's lo-fi beats, but lo-fi in general just kind of like a more muted, warmer kind of style of sound.
Okay.
And that may not be right for every lo-fi music, but for
what you're doing.
In most cases.
Because I see a lot of what you're doing, it's lo-fi. I'm like, what the heck's that?
Yeah, on my YouTube channel, those are study instrumentals. And I make those just because that really helped me when I was in college, especially as someone with ADHD.
Yeah.
Just have something that slows everything down and is kind of a little more repetitive.
Yeah. So as I'm trying to make more content on Instagram, can I use your music for reels and stuff like that?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Awesome.
I should go look and prioritize using
I need to put
sounds.
that stuff on Spotify, but that's all just on YouTube right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you just got to like put a ton of that out there.
You would not believe
just,
it
like,
too. On my computer, I have, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
In my computer, I probably have 600 just uncooked songs that are almost there. And this year, I'm like, okay, I need to roll through all these.
Yeah. That's so hard. Well, like we were just talking about, it's like, how do you know when it's done? Well, it's like pretty much never done. You just got
to put it out, or it's just going to rot on my computer, or I'm going to lose a hard drive, and that idea will be gone.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
should be out there.
Yeah. Okay, and then next, we already kind of talked about your next finish line or milestone.
Yeah.
Because this year, fast half in the fall, Prairie on Fire. What's the date of Prairie on Fire? Put you on the spot.
I think it's first week of September.
Yeah.
So, which is a lot of high heat miles, which I love. I love running in the heat.
You do?
Oh, yeah. Because then when it gets cool, like I feel like your heart rate's used to a little higher stress. And then when it gets cool, it's like oxygen overload.
That's, I guess that is somewhat fair. My
but
body
there's
just
definitely more
hates it.
suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I like coming back from like a 10-mile run in like 90-degree weather and just being drenched and being like, all right, I did something today.
Right. That does feel really good. I have never run a spring marathon for that reason, because I feel like I can train really hard in the heat and then do well in the cool environment versus the opposite, where you're like always in a cool environment and then all of a sudden your spring race is like 80 degrees. I mean, I would
That's
die.
it. Well, then you're laboring a little bit more to get the same result.
Yes.
Because you've been running in cooler weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some bucket lists, like races and stuff that you want to do? Have you ever done a race outside of Indiana?
Well, besides in high school, yeah.
Okay.
Ran some meets outside. Honestly, for me, it would be great to do destination races. I would love to do one out in California and run through the redwoods. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Doing a really difficult trail, ultramarathon, always been on my list. I think right now it's more speed.
Yeah.
I know I have a little window here where my physical, kind of prime will be with speed work. So there's, in the next couple years, my kind of goals, I'd love to break 120 in the half.
Okay.
Which I'm going to need to stack a couple years to do that. That's a tough a tough standard.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to go back and break 17 in the 5K. I was trying to do that right after my 50 miler. I ran the Zionsville 5K, and I think I ran like a 17:40.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to keep training, but it got too cold. I was like, I'm done.
Like, okay. Well, I mean, that's the good thing, is that you're young. You got all kinds of time. I also feel like, you got a lot of time, hopefully, right? I mean, it's like the Masters guys here and women are just incredible too. Yeah. So it's just like,
they're crushing it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy talking to customers who are like, I talk to customers who are obviously quite a bit older than me, but they're so consistent with their training. They're so motivated. They know they're going to get faster. And I'm just like, I feel like we just set such limitations on ourselves. And also something I've noticed, these are people who take their bodies really seriously.
Yeah.
Like they, they do the strength and conditioning. They eat healthy. They do everything to put their joints and, support their joints.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no reason to, obviously things happen, but like, I want to still be running hard when I'm, in my 40s and 50s and
me too.
And love it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but which I know the body breaks down a little bit, but there's a way to, I never want to make excuses with it. I want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Which is hard when you get busy. So very hard.
It is so hard. Absolutely. Oh, well, I'm so glad that I got to get to know you today, Jake.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
First podcast I've been on, so.
Which I can't believe. Like, can we talk about this, Luke? Like, what in the world?
Yeah, come on, Luke.
I was looking. I Googled. I almost texted you to be like, where's the podcast episode that Luke had you on? Luke, do you hear me?
It's okay.
Like, I Googled and I didn't find. I'm like,
it's a competition now.
Wait. So I get to be the first, which is the best. It's my favorite thing is when people have not ever been on a podcast, because it's like, it's such a fun experience, and it's also not nearly as terrifying as it seems, because
definitely not.
Yeah. Hopefully, anyway.
This is great.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you to everybody who has listened, and happy running.
Absolutely.
Hooray. If you enjoyed this episode of the Finish Lines and Milestones podcast from Sandy Boy Productions, please go share, rate, and review. It means a lot. It helps other people find this show. And if you don't already follow me on Instagram, I'm Allie, ALLY, Brett, BRETT, Allie T Brett _runs. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening.